Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase approval, happiness, or meaning, the more distant they seem to become? The tighter you grip life, the more it slips through your fingers. Yet, strangely, when you loosen your hold, when you stop caring so desperately, things begin to arrange themselves with an almost quiet precision. This paradox, uncomfortable though it may be, lies at the very heart of human existence. And it is here, in this tension between desire and resignation, that I invite you to walk with me. I speak to you not as a man untouched by suffering, but as one who has observed it closely, within himself and within the world. Life, as I have long argued, is not governed by reason or benevolence, but by an insatiable force I call the will, a blind, restless striving that pushes us to want, to crave, to hope, endlessly. We desire success, love, recognition, permanence. And when we obtain them, satisfaction proves fleeting. Almost immediately, new desires rise to take their place. This is why so many of you feel exhausted, anxious, and quietly disappointed, even when life appears to be going well. Consider a simple, familiar example. Think of the person who longs obsessively for admiration. They adjust their words, their actions, even their identity to be liked. Yet the more they try, the more strained their interactions become. People sense the hunger beneath the surface. But then, imagine the same person who no longer anxiously seeks validation, who speaks honestly, acts naturally, and accepts indifference if it comes. Paradoxically, this is often when respect and attraction arise, not because they are chasing it, but because they have stopped needing it. This is not magic. It is philosophy made visible. When I speak of stopping caring, I do not mean apathy or moral indifference. I mean withdrawing from the illusion that your peace depends on external outcomes. The will convinces you that if only you were richer, admired, loved, victorious, then you would finally be at rest. Yet this promise is a deception. The will never rests. It feeds on your striving. Observe how much of your suffering comes not from what is, but from what you expect. You expect people to understand you, to treat you fairly, to reciprocate your feelings. When they do not, you feel wronged, wounded, angry. But ask yourself honestly, was the pain caused by their actions or by your demand that reality conform to your desires? I once wrote that life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. Pain, when we want what we do not have. Boredom, when we finally obtain it and discover it was not enough. This is the rhythm of a life enslaved to caring too much about outcomes. The modern world, though filled with noise and novelty, has not escaped this pendulum. In fact, it has accelerated it. Look around you. People measure their worth in numbers, followers, likes, achievements, titles. Each number offers a brief thrill, followed by emptiness, so they chase the next one. This is the will at work, endlessly whispering, more. Not yet. Keep going. And you obey, wondering why fulfillment never arrives. Now imagine another posture toward life, a quieter one. You still act, still work, still love, but without the inner desperation. You no longer stake your identity on results. You do your part and release the rest. This is where things begin to fall into place. Not because the world becomes kinder, but because you are no longer at war with it. There is a profound freedom in this. When you stop caring excessively about being admired, you are no longer enslaved by judgment. When you stop caring about winning every argument, you gain peace. When you stop caring about forcing life to unfold according to your plan, you begin to see it as it is, and to endure it with dignity. I found one of the greatest refuges from the tyranny of the will in art and contemplation. When you lose yourself in music, in painting, in literature, there is a moment, however brief, when desire falls silent. You are no longer wanting, you are simply perceiving. In these moments, suffering loosens its grip. This teaches us something essential, that peace comes not from satisfaction, but from detachment. Compassion, too, arises from this insight. When you recognize that others are driven by the same blind striving, you become less angry and more understanding. You see that cruelty often springs from frustration, that arrogance masks insecurity, and that most people are not malicious, only trapped. When you stop caring about proving yourself superior, you gain the ability to empathize, and empathy, unlike victory, does not leave bitterness behind. Let me speak now to disappointment, a feeling many of you know intimately. You had hopes for a relationship, a career, a version of yourself that never fully materialized. You ask, why did this happen to me? But this question assumes that life owed you something in the first place. When you stop caring about how life should have been, you free yourself to deal with how it is. Acceptance is not surrender, it is clarity. This clarity changes how you move through the world. You become harder to manipulate because threats lose their power when you no longer cling. You become calmer because fewer things feel like personal attacks. You become stronger because your stability no longer depends on fragile circumstances. Ironically, this is often when life appears to reward you. Opportunities arise, relationships become more genuine, conflicts dissolve or lose importance, not because you demanded these outcomes, but because you stopped interfering with them through fear and neediness. To live wisely, then, is not to accumulate pleasures, but to reduce suffering. And the greatest source of suffering is excessive caring rooted in ego, expectation, and illusion. When you care less about what cannot be controlled, you gain mastery over what can, your inner life. I will not deceive you. This path does not lead to constant happiness. Happiness, as most imagine it, is a shallow and unreliable guest. But this path leads to something more durable, tranquility, a sober, grounded peace that can coexist with loss, uncertainty, and even sorrow. So I leave you with this thought. Ask yourself, quietly and honestly, what am I caring about that is draining my life force? Whose approval, which outcome, which imagined future am I clinging to? And then gently, not violently, let it loosen its hold. When you stop caring in this way, you do not lose life. You finally meet it without illusion, without desperation, and without fear. And it is then, perhaps for the first time, that everything begins to fall into place. If these reflections resonate with you, do not rush to agree or disagree. Sit with them, question them, discuss them. Philosophy is not meant to comfort you, it is meant to wake you,